Well, I felt that Jackie. One of the things that was interesting to me about her was I found her such an enigma. And the one point there she is as sort of a college student. She's at Vassar, which is a very fancy college, and yet um, she hates it. She feels, and she doesn't study, and she's the smartest person in the class. But again, as you say, that girls weren't supposed to be smart in those days. They had to sort of play down their intelligence in order to catch a husband. I remember in college it was a ring by spring for the seniors. Um, but then, and then she would desperate to get away from her family and go to Paris, which she finally did her junior year abroad. And then she sort of came out in a way, socially, and she was all over the place, and she was going to parties, and she was it seemed to me very gregarious and very outgoing. She was clearly witty and clever and fun and slightly eccentric. And yet she was an intellectual. I mean, the studies that she did in Paris were extraordinary, the kind of the papers she wrote. And yet people would often describe her as reticent or shy. So I was sort of left with this. I mean, she always wanted to be mysterious. And she
Yeah.
even said she wanted to be mysterious. And I felt by the end of the book that she was mysterious, that I I couldn't quite figure out who she was. And I think that was one of the images that she probably cherished about herself, was that people didn't really know who she was.
Yeah, and I think she was different things at different times with different people. Um, I think the way she really opened up was during a sort of a geeky, intellectual conversation. For example, she evinced this very early interest in Vietnam and the struggle for Vietnamese independence from France. And I took the author's prerogative and certainly drawing an analogy there between the freedom that she experienced in Paris from her parents' dictatorial ways to, having a sense of empathy with the Vietnamese people. And of course, later on, that really comes to its fullness when she sees Jack Kennedy in December of 51 after he's completed this tour, and he's just come back from Vietnam himself, And so I think that was sometimes how she was known best, was by her opinions on substantive matters. I think, she learned how to put it on. She learned how to walk and talk in a way that left an impression. So, and remember, as I point out in the book, she was very interested in being an actress. She talked about if that possibly instead of becoming a writer. But the fact that she even had ambitions to be anything set her apart from her contemporaries.